Hi, everyone, and welcome to Week 2, Module 2, Values and Ethics. Let's get started. So, in this module, we are going to talk about value and ethics. Part 2, we'll talk about the CRAP test and the APA citations, which will be used for your final assignment. Your final is not an exam. I know that's what it says on that apple, but it's not an exam. It is actually a final written assignment, and I will give you some hints on how to get started so that you can, so that it's not all compiled in the last week for you. All right, let's start with Chapter 2, Values and Ethics. Please make sure that you read Chapter 2. There are some sections that we are going to take out, but still, Chapter 2 is very important. So, in this chapter, we're going to talk about value assumptions, conflicts between value assumptions and value priorities, ideal values versus real values, ethics in arguments, and ethical decision making. We're also going to talk about rationalizations, which is in your chapter, and I believe on page 53. Very, very important because that will be on your quiz. Okay, so assumptions. Assumptions and values are the two key words here for our definition. Assumptions are unstated and often unconscious beliefs. We just assume that it's going to happen. It doesn't mean that it won't, but it's not a fact that it will. So here's a picture there. I assume they will catch me. It's an assumption. Values are beliefs, ideals, or principles that we consider worthy and held in high regard. This is something that we personally feel is important. Truth, loyalty, freedom are examples of values. In this cartoon, you have the man saying, my company has 14 core values. And then the gentleman on the right says, we only have one. Oh, what is it? And the gentleman says, love thy neighbor as thyself. That is a value. So as you see these two, you can see that the man on the right is a religious man. He's dressed like a priest. So that value is a personal one. Companies have values as a group, as an entity. So let's move on and go to value assumptions. So value assumptions are huge because they are really the reason why we have arguments. I like that in red, the should be, because those shoulds, the should-haves is what I like to call them, get us into trouble. He should have been honest. She should have been kind. He should have opened that door. She should have done this for me. I would have done that, so why didn't he, right? So those things are the should-haves. There are things that we value and we feel that everybody else should. It's the way that beliefs that we have about the world, how it should be. So more important than all, it's the reason for the argument. Reality assumptions are going to be discussed more in chapter 3, but they're beliefs about how the world really is. It doesn't mean that it's right, but it's how people believe the world is based on their own reality of their own experience. You can read more about that, and we'll discuss that more in Module 3. So for us, the skill that we need to understand is that different values form the basis of many arguments, and that conflicts are often based on differing value priorities. If someone values freedom, the right to choose more than they do life. And I say that because I think back to Patrick Henry in history when he says, give me liberty or give me death. Well, he valued liberty at a higher value than life. He didn't want to be alive if he wasn't going to be free. So that value right there might be personal to him, while others might say, it's okay, I don't care if I'm not free, but I'd rather be alive. So this is a conflict that can come into place in an argument. Value conflicts. We often have value conflicts. So let's look at the value assumption there. let's all value honesty. We want people to be honest with us. We want to be honest with others. But then the issue comes up when a roommate, a friend, a girlfriend, your mother, your boyfriend ask how do they look in their new outfit. And you think, should I tell them that they have hideous taste in clothes? Well, if you're honest, then the conclusion is yes, I'll tell them that they look ugly and they should never choose their own clothes. They dress like scarecrows. That's really when you don't have a value conflict. But many of us have this conflict that comes up because we want to say, well, I value honesty, but I also don't want to be mean to them. I don't want to hurt their feelings. To get rid of that value conflict, we would have to say, well, the reason I'm being honest is that she expects and deserves the honest answer, or they expect and deserve the honest answer. But you can see how we constantly are hitting value conflicts. We value one thing, but say another. For example, I value honesty, but then if someone comes to the door, I might tell my kids, "Ooh, tell them I'm not here." Those are the things that we're talking about, the value conflicts. So now let's look at ethics. And ethics and how they fit into values. So ethics are really what we consider to be right and wrong. For example, I love this here, how to stump a corporate lawyer. And then there's 2 arrows there, legal and ethical. And I chose this one because I think sometimes when we think of ethics, of what's right and wrong, and we also think of legal as the law is what's right and wrong. If someone, those of you, I see many of you are either in law enforcement or going to be in law enforcement. So think about that. You probably value the law. You value what's right and wrong. But are the laws always ethical? And that brings me to this. So thinking about legal actions, such as the Jim Crow laws, that after Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, there was many codes, the black codes, rules and regulations that were set for anyone that was, not going to be free. We have to set these codes and laws. So the Jim Crow laws set into motion segregation, and segregation was legal at the time, but was it ethical? So I wanted to bring that up because I wanted to show you that even though something might be legal, it's not always ethical. And that can also form an issue and an argument. So now we go into morals and how are morals different than in ethics? Well, ethics is right and wrong as a society or as an entity sees it, but morals are the right and wrong in our own personal beliefs. What we believe is right and wrong. So ethics, why we have disagreement in ethics is because we hold many values in common, but in different degrees. If we were all in class right now, I would ask how many of you believe that killing someone is wrong? Well, we probably all will raise our hands. We don't believe that killing anyone is right. But if I say, well, killing someone to what degree? If I go, and by that I mean, I walk up to someone and shoot them and that kills them, that is wrong. But if they're in jail for doing a crime, they've already committed a murder or another heinous crime, then killing them will be okay. So those are 2 different degrees in how we value killing someone. Either it's capital punishment or just, randomly killing someone. So those are the degrees in ethics that we would have a disagreement on. Some common ethics, these are all found in your book. I want you to just skim them, but don't focus too much on them because they will not be on your quiz at all. Now, to review, ethics versus morals, really, the big difference is that ethics refers to the rules of social system, so our government, and the morals are more of our own principles, our own values and beliefs. So now we go to ideal values and real values. I like this one because many of us have these ideal values. And then when we think about them, you'll think about them in just a second, you'll start saying, oh my gosh, what are my real values? For example, me, I could say I love, I value health. But yet, reality is, I might not be eating healthy, I might not be exercising, so my real values and my ideal values are not matching. I see this a lot. I get students and their ideal value is, I value education. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get my degree. I value education. But the reality value is, I see them all the time on their social media, and they are not studying. They're spending more time doing anything else but the education. So think about that. What is an ideal value you have? Because you say, no, I value this, but you could be doing a little bit more of it. And that's the reality value. So you really, in this picture here that I chose, you can't say the girl on the left, she does value education. So her ideal value and her reality value are connected. In the picture on the right, the girl, she has an ideal value. She could say, I value education. That's an ideal value because the reality is she's not really spending the time on what she values. Another example, when you say you value your family, but you're either out with your friends more or doing other things rather than be with your family. So think about that, and that might be a topic for discussion either in your in the future. So think about your ideal and real values. Okay. Ethics. So once again, ethics here is an example of our U.S. Declaration of Independence. This is what we, meaning as a whole, think is as good. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator and uncertain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So natural life and liberty versus legal. So you can see here that the ideal or the value here is life and liberty versus the legal aspect of it. This next slide has to do with how you need to maintain your ethics in your argument. Honesty included, meaning do not, if there's something in your research that you do not like, that is not supporting your point, does not mean you keep it out. You have to provide all the information. So do not omit it or change it. Be honest in your conclusion. Don't just say you still agree with this because that's the first conclusion you made. You might change along the way. Thoroughly research claims made. Don't just make up evidence. Don't lie about information. Really research it. Listen respectfully to the opposing viewpoints. This is huge. Look at what's going on right now. The politics, when you hear two politicians speak, sometimes it's just horrible. They're not listening to each other. They're just attacking on top of each other, yelling over one another. Be willing to revise your position. So be willing to change if the other side is making a valid point. And then always, and this is huge, credit secondary sources. Always give credit where you got that research. You do not want to be in trouble for plagiarizing, which is cheating and stealing from other sources. So that's why we're going to be using APA styles, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. I'm going to end this lecture now, and we'll do part 2 of values and ethics, and then go on to our second part, which is the CRAP test, and the final one on getting ready for our final assignment. Have a good day.